And good morning, everybody. We're live. Congratulations. You've almost made it through this Christmas week. Another amazing week of food safety, food quality, all those products we put on our table when the family comes over, and we all trust that the food safety is good, because the last thing we want is grandma getting salmonella, because that's no good. Anyway, if you're new here, welcome. Pull up a chair on this Friday. This is the Food Safety Chat Live. My name is Bryan Armentrout with Culture Advisory Group, and you are at the Food Safety Chat. And every Friday at this time, 8 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Eastern, I bring an amazing food safety expert on with me to have a conversation with you. Because what else are you doing today? The games are over. You're kind of hanging around. You're recovering from all that food you ate yesterday. Learn a little bit, grow your knowledge just a little bit. That's all I always try and do too. And this is a great use of time. And one of the things I love to do on the chat is bring on new perspectives and new voices within food safety. And today I'm very happy to have one of those. That's Maggie Smith with Viand Group today. How are you doing, Maggie?
Well, I'm doing great because I'm not out doing the after Christmas shopping. So This is a much better place to be than out among those masses of crazy people.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazon is the thing for me. And so Bon is joining us. Good. And this is one of the things that we love to do here on the chat is we let everybody know in the world we're at, Maggie. So I am in Loveland, Colorado, which if you're unfamiliar with is about an hour or so north of Denver, Fort Collins, Loveland area, not the ski resort, the city of Loveland. So we're kind of up by the mountains next to Denver. So where are you at, Miss Smith?
I am in Middle Tennessee. Manchester is the county seat of Coffee County. A lot of people know it by the music festival Bonnaroo, which is definitely not our claim to fame, and we are about ready for it to go away. Yes, I say Middle Tennessee is a very small rural area, and Tennessee is divided into three grand divisions, East, Middle, and West, and you know that you're a native Tennessean if you say you're from Middle Tennessee or East Tennessee or West Tennessee. You can't just say Tennessee.
Okay, and that's something else I didn't know as well, is it's Tennessean. If you're from Tennessee, a Tennessean. Yeah, Tia Glaive, who's with Catalyst. Yeah, she's from
She is a UT grad, as am I. So there we go. We're both Vols fans.
Awesome. Yeah, beautiful campus. I took a course there one time for a company I was working for, and they brought us all out there, and we took a course. Really pretty area.
Was it on the ag campus?
I remember it was like almost like a little valley, and there was like, it was pretty hilly.
Nope. Okay. Yeah. It
was kind of weird. Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Maybe I'm not remembering that correctly. So
Twin Falls, Idaho, been there. So Bonnie, I know exactly where you're at.
South Jersey. I used to spend quite a bit of time in Bridgeton with White Wave. We have a plant down there.
Hey, Alice. Good morning, Alice. You say War Eagle, but I know your son does not say that. He goes to Georgia to school, so I think you have to live with that, you and him.
Michelle's here with us as well. Michelle was a guest last week, so good to have you here, Michelle. More than my share of time. I worked with Eurofins. I ran their consulting and training groups, and so their headquarters for the food and feed labs. And at that time, the consulting group was in Des Moines, so I would spend a lot of time in Des Moines. Right, and most of my family's from Iowa, which is great. So I would get to go and see relatives and things every now and then as well, which was very nice, very nice. So people are filing in. This is going to be a fun chat, everybody. I think you're going to enjoy it today. It's kind of casual, looking back on 25 type chat. And one of the things that we do here to get started off as well, Maggie, is we're going to join everybody for a drink of your favorite beverage.
Yeah, I've got to show Alice. I got a Pilgrim's cup I'm drinking out of today, Alice.
Nice. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
And I've got my good old Ember mug, which is always very nice. So one of the things, Maggie, that I love to do, Alice, you're going to see this too. I love to torture everybody with the dad joke. So I came up one here with kind of for the end of the year. So we'll hopefully this isn't too risky for everybody. Hopefully I don't get turned in by LinkedIn or something. But here is the dad joke. So Maggie, I recently renamed my toilet Jim instead of the more traditional name John. Now people are really, really impressed when I tell them that I go to the gym every morning.
Is there a boo thing on here I can click to say or groaning for over that.
Every single morning. The gym.
The gym. Well, true story. True story. Myself and some of my friends, we call it the morning room because a dear friend of mine, his mother had dementia. And that was when she got up in the morning, that was the first place she went. So she started calling it the morning room. And we've just kind of, as homage to her, call it the morning room now.
Right. That makes perfect sense to me as well. I told that joke on Friday to one of my clients, and yeah, he laughed out loud. He's like, "Oh my God, I can't wait to tell it to my wife." So I knew that was a good one.
That was a good one.
So Maggie, one of the things I love to do here on the chat as well when we have a new guest on is tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, all this fun stuff. So introduce yourselves to everyone.
Sure. I'm Maggie Smith. I am not the actress because I have not expired and I'm not ready to expire. I am the president, founder, owner, chief cook and bottle washer, or whatever you want to say, for Viand Group. It's a company I started going on 11 years now. It's just hard to believe. And I do consulting, training, and auditing in the areas of food safety and quality, as well as animal welfare. I do a lot of animal welfare work. My focus has been auditing I've been doing it since 2000, so going on 26 years now. And they say the life expectancy of an auditor is 7 years. So I am an overachiever, I guess you would say. But now I'm doing more consulting and training for clients with animal welfare or food safety. I started, like I said, 11 years ago, mainly doing auditing, and am transitioning a little bit more over to the consulting and training, so I don't have to leave home as much. Those 25 years of 85% plus travel takes a toll. I do reside in Middle Tennessee. I am within an hour of the Eastern time zone, but I am on the Central time zone. I grew up on a farm. Interesting conversation or fact is my late father, my sister, and I, between the three of us, we have 5 degrees in agriculture. So we say my mom gets an honorary agriculture degree for putting up with us on that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Again, like I said, I'm a football fan. College sports I love. I do root for the Tennessee Vols. That's where I got my master's degree.
Very good school for sure. And yeah, animal welfare. That's so Colorado State, which is not too far from me, has a very good program. Temple Grandin, yes, absolutely.
Yes, we serve on the American Meat Institute's Animal Welfare Committee together.
Nice. Yeah, I flew on a flight with her one time, and it's very easy to pick her out in a crowd.
People know her in one realm or the other.
Yes, absolutely. So we'll kind of dive into our topic here for today, everybody.
Sure.
And what we kind of wanted to do, and this is really going to be, we have amazing participation here, Maggie, with our people who come to the chat every single week. And really, this is always kind of the time of year where people like to reflect and kind of think about what happened over the last year. And my goodness, there's a lot of stuff that happened in 2025. Really high profile recalls. This infant formula thing is still going on. So we just kind of wanted to have a conversation around all the different things that have caught our attention and all the crazy stories for 2025. So as you guys have ideas in the chat here of things that you want to throw on the list for us to talk about, feel free, throw them in here and let us know what you've been thinking about. So we're going to kind of go through these in rapid style. And one of the things, this is kind of a food adjacent thing, but I think it kind of shows the overlap within these different industries and how these things get impacted with unintended consequences, which is kind of one of our themes here today. And we were talking about this, Maggie, on Monday when we were prepping for the chat, is we hear a lot about tariffs and imports, but also the export market. And of course, in Middle Tennessee, a lot of whiskey and different products are being produced there. So we were talking about Jim Beam And well, Jack Daniels, of course, is down in that area as well. And how that industry has really been impacted, hasn't it?
Yeah. If you really want to know where I live, George Dickel's made in the county I live in. Jack Daniels is in the neighboring county, and moonshine is all around, and we'll just leave it at that. Yeah. What, and you talk about exports, and it's not only the liquor, but I was in Puerto Rico on business, and I like to learn. So, of course, I went to Bacardi to tour it, and they were talking about they were putting their liquor to age in white oak barrels. And I was like, excuse me, but I've not seen any oak trees growing here on the island. And she said, we get them from Jack Daniels. So you're not only talking about liquor exports, you're talking barrels and things like that used to make the alcohol. So
interesting.
Yes, very, very interesting.
I actually saw a show. We were talking about how the food and different types of food are being made on was it the History Channel, which is very interesting. There was an episode I saw there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the shows I think I saw was on that show was barrel manufacturing and how they make barrels and creating the staves. And then when they toast it on the inside, it was crazy watching these guys do this because they're all made by hand.
They char it. You would take away your liquor card if you called it toasting on the inside for Jack Daniels.
Oh,
you char
it. Is that more of a wine type term then, or
it may be?
Huh. Interesting. Very interesting. So that export of those barrels is being hurt. And in addition to that, and it's kind of a side note on this, just a weird fact, is that overall whiskey consumption is way down, and a lot of these companies have really huge inventories. So I think you'd mentioned that they're not even manufacturing right now either, are they?
Jim Beam is not at their main distillery.
Mm-hmm.
They have said they're taking this year to make some improvements. But like we talked about, the younger generation is not drinking as much. Mm-hmm. They are more toward the edibles and the smoke. They lean more towards marijuana. Yes, Michelle, charring, actually, most of the charring is used for flavor. Mm-hmm. Because where you get that little smoky flavor in the alcohol and the whiskey, that's what the charring is mainly used for. And Alice says one of her sons works in reclaiming wine liquor barrel industry. Mm. So there you go. It's very evolved into all these different industries with the wine and liquor barrels. Is he making furniture, Alice? It may be, and that may be, you may have to have Alice on there to talk about what they do with whiskey barrels.
That would be very interesting. Well, and it's the woods that they make those barrels out of are very, very high quality woods. And
very much so.
It's great that they're able to reclaim those. I mean, when I was a kid, what would generally happen is they would end up being planters. They would cut them in half or what have you, and then you'd have it in your backyard with flowers in them a lot of times.
Well, and some people would get them and fill them with water or alcohol and just have let them steep for a little bit to get that more of that charring. Now they make.
I heard too that that process of charring it as well would release some of the sugars that would be in the woods as well. All of these different things that are just super cool to learn about in that space.
Right. And it's not only Jim Beam. I mean, George Dickel, a lot of the others, when you go into Cascade Hollow for George Dickel, or you go to Lynchburg for Jack Daniels and you see the barrel houses, there's, 55-gallon barrels upon barrels upon barrels. So they have a lot in stock. Mm-hmm. So I can see with the way the younger people are going towards marijuana, which leads us into a whole other topic of food safety, that they have too much on hand.
Exactly. Yeah. So like you were saying earlier, Maggie, is with, like marijuana and the edibles and, crazy vaping stuff, which is super bad for you, by the way. They think in some ways it's probably even worse than smoking because I mean you're putting aerosol oils into your lung, which you can only imagine how bad that is. But with unintended consequences here in Colorado, the marijuana industry here legalizing. So like other states, they had the recreational after the medical, and now it's kind of all of it. But in a lot of ways, the state of Colorado really squashed the marijuana business because they just really, really taxed it high and cut down those profit margins. And the business, it's not doing what they thought it would do because they're just, it's this golden goose that they're killing. And the food safety overlap on this, because I have worked here in Colorado with some marijuana companies who produce, to your point, edibles and things like this. Because they're trying to attract new customers. It's Cheech and Chong are already getting their marijuana. So, they would, market toward, middle-aged people like me and be like, hey, if you've never tried marijuana, you can try an edible or whatever. And it's like, okay, sure. And so essentially they were making food. They were making gummy bears and drinks and all these different things. But from what I saw in the industry, Maggie, and I'm curious to get your take on this too, is that they didn't view it as food. They just viewed it as a drug delivery system. So the people who were making the food really didn't understand that they were making food. And in Colorado, the industry is governed by the health department. So the agency that inspects restaurants was trying to inspect and still are trying to inspect food manufacturing locations. And that's a completely different world, isn't it?
It is. And you had mentioned Temple earlier. And so I had been invited to her 70th birthday party a few years ago. And I like to learn. So I thought, well, I'm headed out to Colorado. I want to talk to someone, in the marijuana industry out there because people were starting to grow hemp in Tennessee. Marijuana is not legalized here, but if it does, they're going to need some expertise. So I wanted to tour one, and the health department, Denver County, which is where Denver is located, put me in touch with a lady there, and she was in public health at some point in her life, and she sent me to her because she'd had cookies that had an undeclared allergen, and she initiated a recall on her own. Because when you're looking at the marijuana industry, the scary thing is it's state regulated and you are not required to have a recall if you have an allergen.
Right.
So my thoughts were like, that just opens a whole new Pandora's box of food safety when it comes to these edibles.
Yeah. And different states follow different rules. So here in Colorado, as I've mentioned, the health regulations, Washington state follows an FDA type model. But to your point, it's all state. It's not federal. And here in Colorado, they were also very worried about children. So if you have sweet drinks or gummy bears or cookies or brownies, kids see that. What are they going to do? Right? They're going to chow down on that stuff. So they would whipsaw in a lot of different ways and create all these new rules for these people producing these products, and they just couldn't keep up. They had to put all kinds of crazy childproof tops on the bottles of the beverages, which were very, very expensive. And they made some good points. They're like, well, the people who produce vodka don't have to do that. It could be just as bad for a kid drinking vodka. Why don't you make them do that? And they kind of had a valid point. And so the industry really has it's had a really tough road to hoe.
And it opens up a whole new area of food safety to study, to be involved in for, a lot of the young people who are just graduating or still have a lot of time left in that career of food safety to work on these rules. And it will be hard as long as it's state to state. And I'm looking purely not from a food safety standpoint. That's what scares me is they're not required to follow a lot of the rules that, USDA and FDA put out for food plants and food manufacturers.
Yep. And there's different methodologies for extraction, water-based and more like a solvent type based, which people don't like, because they're trying to maximize crops, and these things are being grown inside in a lot of cases. Over application of pesticides, mold growth, all kinds of problems that these guys are dealing with. And this industry has just been hurt in so many ways. And the fact that the taxes are so high, it's the illegal market has come back really, really strong, because it's now more of an incentive to produce it illegally and take the risk because of all these regulations. So they've created more problems by trying to be overbearing and overtaxing on this industry. Everybody thought this was going to be the next big thing to invest in, and it has absolutely just flopped. Hemp production, we were talking about hemp production too, right? Oh my God, that was going to be a huge thing.
Yes, and they're both just, hemp now is just a crop like corn or soybeans. So it's it's just a crop now. So you're not going to be, it's not a get rich quick scheme, if it's a get rich quick at all.
I went to a meeting here in Colorado. So Cortland's talking about a cannabis community. I went to a meeting, a different group. I don't remember if it was AFDO or who it was, but I went to attend and see what was going on at this thing. Jam packed, and almost everybody who was there, to your point, Maggie, were farmers, and they saw this as the next big crop where they could make some money. And at the time, it was crazy. It was like $50, $60 a bushel or something, just insane. And then the market just absolutely crashed. I think the last time I saw it was below, I'm guessing here, $4, $3, which they couldn't even make money on it. So most of them went back to what they were doing before. So completely imploded in that market too.
Well, it's what you said, unintended consequences is we don't think far enough ahead, and sometimes we can't. Sometimes we don't have the information to look that far into the future as what's going to happen.
Yep. So for unintended consequences on the food side, we hope what we were just talking about doesn't bleed over into this category. But the next thing, Maggie, that we were talking about was school lunch programs. We're seeing tons of activity around school lunch programs, and what goes into those programs and these type of things. But I was looking at it. Here's something that if you work in food safety, you need to be thinking about, and talking with your sales team. Different food companies focus in different areas. So I worked in companies that were CPG, consumer-facing type companies, branded products, and industrial companies where most of the products that were manufactured were going into other products or food service. So Cisco would buy product or what have you, sell to restaurants. And one of the things that the salespeople were always looking for, Maggie, was new customers. And they would then go out and call on school districts to, because mozzarella cheese, that's a wonderful thing, like buy our mozzarella cheese. You can use it on your pizzas that you have on Friday, and string cheese and all the things that kids love. So the sales guys always saw that as a great avenue to sell products. Yes. But what we need to understand and what we need to work with our sales team on for these type of products is that just altered our risk perspective on the products, didn't it?
Very much so. And you had mentioned about recalls in the beginning of the show. When I do training, and I think pretty much everybody knows now, my mantra is when I'm training, and this goes along with school lunch programs, there's 3 entities that you cannot harm and 3 entities that you definitely cannot kill. And that's old people, babies, and animals. You kill somebody's grandmama, somebody's lap dog, or somebody's newborn, you're toast, basically. You get a lot of drama, maybe around consumers who don't understand, but you get a lot of attention that you don't want. And there's a lot of unintended consequences because of that. So with the school lunch program, keeping children fed, to me, yes, we do want a healthy, nutritious meal, but fed is best. I don't want to see someone go hungry. I don't want to see a child go hungry.
Nope, absolutely not. And when a food company harms children, I mean, look at the big recall that's going on right now with this infant formula. Had I ever heard of By Heart before? No. Do I know them now? Oh, yeah, everybody does. And this recall so far has just been an absolute cluster. There's still product on the shelves. Bill Marler wrote an op-ed. Evidently, Target was still selling the product. Target was still selling the product. And he's just like, what is wrong with you people? This is botulism with infants. This is serious. What are you doing? And especially on the retail side, they don't sometimes understand the consequences of this. And these big recalls with this, we don't think about it necessarily from a food safety standpoint. Another big area in this too, Maggie, is hospitals and nursing homes. We may have been in hospitals. We have family members who've been in hospitals, and then they bring in the tray with the food for them. What type of special testing has that food gone through that you're selling to that hospital? You are selling to people in very, very fragile state. You need to be extra careful if you're selling that product through those channels. And a lot of times you don't necessarily have the visibility you need.
No, Bryan, that's correct. And I think it's two-pronged. We definitely have to make sure that the food is safe. But if you've ever been in a hospital, the food lots of times arrives to the patient, or if you've had a family member in there, the temperature is not what it should be at when that food comes in. So I think and I've always said that we really do a good job. All in all, we do a great job with, if the consumer or an end user understood what all we go through. We do lack in informing the public, helping the public to understand, but then again, they don't want to learn. Mm-hmm. They don't want to learn. Oh, you had a recall. What are you doing wrong? Well, it's an unintended consequence of something that was not functioning correctly previously.
Well, and then on that unintended side, especially for the school lunch program side of things, Maggie, is that you'll have political figures who get involved. So was it First Lady Michelle Obama, had a big push on school lunch programs and changing up the menus, and these kind of tend to pop up every now and then. You'll say, oh, well, we need better food for the children. They just can't have pizza and chocolate milk every day. And so they'll try and put in fresh alternatives, whatever that means. And that's also changing that supply chain. And one of the things that you learn when you're dealing in this space, so in a lot of ways, which is why we kind of bunch these three together with, school lunch programs, food service, hospitals, nursing homes, that it's an extremely complicated supply chain. And product is shipped, distributed, consolidated, put on trucks. Michelle and I were talking about this last week. And if it's going to a restaurant and you have that delivery truck for that food service company making that delivery early in the morning, dropping it off at the back door at the back of the Pizza Hut, it's sitting out there for a while until somebody can get to it. And that's fresh stuff, frozen stuff, raw stuff, all sitting out there. And then when the guy inside the restaurant has time from what he's doing to go out there and then load it into the different coolers, that can take some time. And you need to really understand that. One of the things I did, which was a fantastic exercise, and if you work in quality with anything dealing with food service, I highly recommend doing this. Go on sales calls. I would go out with our sales team and we would go to restaurants and we would sit with the pizza operators. Now, granted, was it a side benefit that I got to go with the sales guys to pizzerias in Brooklyn and have some of the best pizza in the country? Yeah, that was awesome. But that showed commitment because I understood the process. And when we would get complaints for different types of issues with cheese, Maggie, you would understand with the different type of ovens. This is a little bit off topic, but it kind of fits why you need to understand these supply chains. Is you have deck ovens and you have conveyor ovens and you have different styles of ovens in the pizza industry. And we would get complaints. One of the most common complaints for mozzarella cheese on pizzas is burning. It's like, hey, your cheese is crappy and you're burning my pizzas. I want a refund. And we would investigate these things. 9 times out of 10, it was employees that were doing it. And what would happen, it would be a busy Friday night, Maggie. And they're absolutely slammed with customers and they're trying to get the pizzas out the door. You're a 20-year-old kid making pizzas back there and you're behind schedule. You're going to turn that oven up a little bit to get those pizzas cooked a little faster. I
might have done that at home a time or two. Yes, Bryan.
So it was an unintended consequence. And then we would work with those pizzeria owners and show them what was going on. And then they would be like, right? And they would turn and look at their cook, and the cook kind of be like, yeah, I kind of do that. So you have to investigate. Is my point with that story.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was looking, Michelle said fresh alternatives can be risky. Definitely, because we all know coming from the field and just washing or going through a chlorine rinse or ozonated water, you still have more consequences with fresh than you do with canned or frozen or prepared. And then Cortland talked about the Cannabis and Psychedelic Committee. That sounds like an interesting committee, Cortland. And as Alice said, with the pets, just this past week, Pennsylvania enacted a law that you no longer are your pet's owner.
Oh, that's right. They're family members. I saw that.
They're guardians and family members. And so what people really don't understand, you get some unscrupulous lawyer who's now going to be able to sue you on behalf of your dog or cat because they're treating them as humans now.
Yeah,
they're part of the family.
Or somebody sees you yanking on your leash for your dog when you're walking it, and they call the police and they take the dog away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. And it could be that you were training the dog. Who knows?
Michelle says she's moving to Pennsylvania. And then does that go into, when does that start going into farm animals? I mean, horses are still considered livestock, but most people don't see that. So you're just kind of moving a little, I don't know. It's more complicated, I guess. I can't find the word that it's going to be a lot of unintended consequences, because then it goes back. Okay, they're human. What are we feeding them? Are you feeding them table scraps? Are you buying canned food? Are you buying, kibble? What are you buying? And then that gets into a lot. And I've been in pet food plants several times. You're right, Bonna. It's opening the barn door, no pun intended. But, when I went into the pet food, I never knew there were so many SKUs. Old dogs, new dogs, medium-sized dogs, little dogs, things with heart. And they were eating, really, a lot of their food was like porterhouse steak or alligator or a lot of different things that we don't even think about. A lot of exotics, that we would consider very high-end food for us that you could only afford once every few paychecks.
Yeah. Yeah. We get a fresh, like a prepared food for our dog, but he's a little guy. He's like 5 pounds, and it's expensive. Whoa. It's just, it's like, but it's really good food. And there's like a turkey recipe he has, Maggie, and you smell that and you're like, oh my God, I'd eat that. That smells awesome. You kind of warm it up a little bit. They do a really, really good job. And it comes to us frozen, right? I would never buy the stuff that's, still fresh. And you see a lot of recalls for that stuff, for salmonella and what have you. You have a perfect environment for growth in those products. So you have to be prepared on those sides too. But on the legal side, back to that, it's going to be fun to watch to see what happens in Pennsylvania, because the lawyers are going to have a field day. So essentially, you've granted them a whole new category of rights, and the lawyers are going to go nuts.
And California's been that way for a while. Yeah.
Oh, Michelle cooks for her dog. Lots of marrow. Yeah, it's a lot of times our pets they eat better.
I barely cook for myself. I have no time. I barely cook for myself, much less having an animal to cook for.
And so here's another hot topic, Maggie, to get your take on as well, and something I never do. I'll be curious to see what people here do as well. Is these home meal delivery kits, which you see more and more of. Hey, get this box delivered. It's got everything in it that you need to cook these amazing gourmet meals. Just follow these 3 easy steps, and ta-da! You've got an amazing meal. I never buy those. Do you?
I have never purchased in my entire life one of those Amazon type meals. I call it, just because they deliver to you like Amazon does or UPS does or FedEx. No, I've not. My concern has always been, temperature, maintaining the temperature.
Yes.
Michelle, it is. can of worms.
Yes, absolutely. So the bottom line on these home cooked meals is every food safety alarm bell goes off when you see these things. Is that the main thing is they're mixing things. They're mixing raw with cooked with produce, right? So you got raw meat in there with produce and everything has to be packaged perfectly. Whoever's putting that stuff together has to not cross-contaminate. You have to keep the temperature correct. And all this is being shipped through a system that absolutely was not designed to handle food. These are UPS trucks. These things are like 130 degrees in the summer. And I've worked in this industry and I've worked with companies that have delivery services for their products. And it is incredibly challenging. So not only do you have to make sure that the insulation is correct and you've got the right refrigerant in there, you've got the ice packs, which all of this waste is generated from trying to control the temperature. You have to account for where you're shipping it to, how long it's going to take to get there. There are certain markets where these delivery companies, Maggie, won't even ship to. If you live in Tucson, nope, ain't going to happen because they know that it's not going to be the right temperature. It's a bacteria factory. It's just created to create that. We've seen a number of recalls in these areas. Definitely for micro allergen cross-contamination. They need to figure out a better way to do this. And so I completely avoid this.
Yeah, I know Bonna said she did, that she ordered some to see if it was as risky as she thought. And she concluded that it was.
Yeah.
It's like Michelle said, no food safety plan. You can't control it once it leaves with what they pack it with. You know, in the styrofoam or styrofoam boxes, styrofoam lined boxes, and then just the ice packs. And there are some, there are some pet food companies that are doing the same thing, that ship fresh pet food that way. And the temperature is a big issue with those. How many other people, I wondered, have done it in the food industry as a whole? Have they tried it like Bonna did just to see if their hypothesis was correct? Or
there's other consultants I know, and Corey Muse, who's been on the show, does a lot of work in this space, and she's done surveys and things like horrible. Yeah, from a food safety standpoint, horrible. Avoid it like the plague. And also, these companies need to be monitoring this enough to realize that they need to change their plans according to the time of year. So if you're shipping in the middle of the summer, your refrigerant program of how you're managing those products is different. And there's also secondary companies now, Maggie, that have popped up that manage this for food companies. So you send in all your stuff to these companies and then they pack everything up and send it out. Are they doing a good job?
Well, I think it's like most things, Bryan. The people who started these, a home cooked meal, sent you fresh food, I honestly believe maybe they ate fresh food and they thought everyone else should, but their thing was to make money. They didn't think about the unintended consequences.
No.
Hey, we're going to get all of this together. We're going to ship it to you, and you're going to love that you're eating fresh food.
Right. And that's one of the things as consultants that we work on quite a bit. I'm sure you see this too, Maggie, is just because your grandma had an amazing recipe for a product doesn't mean it's something that you should sell. I would get calls all the time of, hey, I've got this salsa recipe that my grandma made. Everybody loves it. I want to start selling it. I'm just like, oh my God. Okay. All right. So canning, acidified foods, all of these regulations. No, fresh salsa at home.
Yes. I'm actually a process authority. I haven't done it in a while, but I used to set the cook times for canned food. So I totally understand that industry, and don't buy those dented cans with a little pinpoint dents in them in the grocery store. Even though they're $5 for $1, don't do that.
Don't do that.
In fact, I have made my mother more so than I am. If there's any type of little misshape, she's like, no, don't buy, we can't buy that. I'm like, I've taught you too well.
Yeah. Well, and there's funny things too on that side, and this is an unintended consequence. This wasn't one on our list, but I think it's a fun one to talk about for a little bit, is Best Buy and Used Buy. And they've been trying to standardize those terms at the federal level forever. And my wife, right, so it just drives me nuts. So like there'll be like a container of half and half or what have you, and we'll open it, we'll start using it in our coffee, and it may take us a little while to go through it, and then she'll say something like, "Oh, is this still good?" And then she'll like, "Oh, the best by date on the side is still says it's still good." I'm like, "No, that's not how that works. Once you open it, that's not what that's for. That it doesn't turn into a mushroom when that date expires. It's depending on how you take care of it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's not a magic expiration date that all of a sudden, poof, all of a sudden it's not good." But she'll just kind of look at me and go, and then she just keeps on.
Yeah. The number of people and Sharon Beals, and a lot of us know her. She has, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember exactly how she says it, but basically the gist is it's used by, not die by. Food doesn't automatically go bad on, January the 11th, if that's what the date says.
Yeah.
Cortland, I love it. Botulism is good. It's called Botox. Mm-hmm. That may be one of the best one-liners of the show, in addition to Bryan open a can of worms. Yes, Alice, me too. It was the ball. Yes, the ball blue book, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, even in that, my mom can. Yeah, my mom can too. Yeah. And part of those rules was like, the resealable lid with the rubber gasket. You never reuse those, right? And
the flats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you don't know that simple little lesson, you're asking for trouble. There's so many ways those things can go wrong. But
I like to home can, and I didn't this year have time, but salsa is one I like to can. Hot pepper jelly. So I'm like Alice. I like to home can and go by the ball blue book and your food safety knowledge. But so many people don't have that knowledge, and they take shortcuts, and now they use botulism to inject in our faces, don't they, Cortland? And our lips and whatever else, cheeks or whatever else.
Well, Cortland's pretty, so he needs that.
Here's
another one.
Is that what's made him pretty? Mm-hmm. Is the Botox? Okay.
Absolutely. That's his secret. Sorry, Cortland. Didn't want to get that out there. Here's another one. I saw this last night. This is not on our list either, Maggie, but it's one we got to talk about. Raw milk. Raw milk.
Okay.
Every now and then. And so Marcus on LinkedIn right now is fighting with people on raw milk. And every now and then I'll join the fray as well too. But good luck. There's people on LinkedIn who have agendas around raw milk of it's somehow better than pasteurized milk, and they push this. And it's just so irresponsible. It drives me nuts.
Yes. And my mother grew up on a dairy farm, and my grandparents were dairy farmers. And yes, I drank raw milk growing up lots of times. Knock on wood, I'm still here. I say it's from growing up on a farm and maybe being exposed to so much. But Alice, I do now. I cringe now at raw milk, and is how they get around it in the States. And I know they do in several states is farmers can't sell raw milk, but you as a consumer can buy a share of the cow.
Yep.
For price. So then that allows you to drink the product of the animal you own.
Yep. They did that in Pennsylvania. I lived in Pennsylvania for a while too. So that's kind of cool. Cortland worked on Botox. Cool.
It is. Right. Well, there you go. See, that's why he's so pretty. But and it's a little almost out of the print where talks about fascinating cultures teach good food safety practices. You look at washing meat, and I know with Alice being in the poultry industry, how many times do people talk about having to wash their chicken or wash their steaks before they cook them?
Yep. You end up just spreading more contamination all over the place. Absolutely. Yeah, with raw milk, generally what I'll do is so what I have found is the people that are pushing raw milk online have an agenda. They're trying to sell something, and so they're being disingenuous. And I won't even argue with them because there's no point. I'm really talking to the people in the comments and trying to dissuade people who think that this information is true. And generally what I found, Maggie, on raw milk conversations is I'll post, and I think on Food Safety News this month, there's been 2 or 3 raw milk recalls. And I'll just put links in there to those raw milk recalls. They never respond. It's okay if somebody else gets sick. And if you're an adult and you want to make a stupid decision, fine. But a lot of times these people buy raw milk and they feed it to their small children. Right? All right, now you're going over the line. And,
You are.
Yeah, people need to get.
And it goes
I'll
back.
even see people with little children in sushi restaurants, and I'm just like, no, what are you doing?
It goes back to causation and correlation. Just because you never got sick before doesn't mean you're not going to get sick now. And you're right, Mona. Most people pushing it have seldom milked a cow. They've seldom seen meat, what we go through, but you're right. And milking cows is not anything I want to do. So my grandparents were the last of the dairy farmers in our families,
It's an incredibly hard and difficult life being a dairy farmer.
7 days a week, 2 times a day.
Yep. You are married to that farm. And to your point, if you go out to the milking parlor and God bless them, they do everything they can to keep everything clean, but it's a farm and there's stuff everywhere. And
that's right.
They do the best that they can. But I think I read a study here a number of years ago that said that they estimated that around 17% of raw milk is contaminated with some type of pathogen, E. coli, Listeria, or Salmonella.
Like Bonna says, she gets into arguments about raw milk because she asked them if they let their children play with loaded firearms.
Yeah.
I think this unintended consequence today, we may have hit a high on how many cringeworthy items we've brought up and topics we've brought up, but it's great to see that all the food safety people here you understand. Again, how do we make the consumer understand when they don't want to understand because they think we're trying to kill them because we put so many preservatives and additives in?
Mm-hmm.
When really, you know what, you'd probably be dead by age 33 if it wasn't for us. Thank you, Clarence Birdseye and refrigeration.
Yes. And while we're on the subject, Mr. Carrier for air conditioning, thank you for that too.
Oh, Michelle, do we need to take you to the doctor? Your heart's fluttering right now. And thank you for sharing, Cortland. It's just a colon cleanse.
Oh, Cortland, you're always full of beans.
He's always full of it.
I love having him on the chat. He's great. Another intended consequence you need to think about in today's political environment is everything that's going on with tariffs and trade and the constantly shifting world. And if you work in the food industry, a lot of your ingredients are purchased overseas. You may say, well, I don't buy stuff from overseas. I buy from a broker or distributor. Well, where do they get it? They get it from overseas. So you have these things going over. And anytime you have financial implications on products, unscrupulous people, they're going to try and find ways around that. We've seen this with food fraud, with honey. Oh my God, honey, right? I don't know why people even buy honey anymore because it's just so you have no idea what you're getting anymore. You almost have to be making the honey yourself or get it from your neighbor because there's just so much fraud in that industry.
Well, especially since the filtration has gotten so technical and such finesse, with being able to take the pollen out. It is that and olive oil. I'll be honest. I'm an olive oil snob now. I never thought I would pay $20 or so for a bottle of olive oil, and yes, I do. But I always make sure where my sources are and that I'm getting the what it says it is. But the consumer is not someone that is willing to do that. There was a place here that would sell milk, and it was not homogenized milk, because homogenizing destroyed all the good things in the milk. That's how they put it, the good things in the milk. And I tried to explain, and he said, I'll believe what I want to, and you believe what you want to. And I said, I don't have to believe. I have the facts.
Right.
I know the facts.
That's not how reality works, and it'll bite you in the butt if you think that's the case.
Michelle, if you're going to be at IPPE next month, you can have lunch with me and Alice. I'm sure I know Alice will be there too.
There you go. Nice. One thing that I do for olive oil, and this is another fake thing that people believe too, is that organic is better. No. But I do buy Costco Kirkland organic virgin olive oil. That's what I buy for olive oil. Why do I do that? Because I know, number one, Costco is on top of their suppliers, and Costco audits and Costco controls. Costco knows what's going on. And if it's organic, that means also that you're going to have a much better traceability system, and auditors are going out and looking at that for these suppliers. So the chances of that being fraudulent are much lower. That's my strategy on the olive oil.
Well, hey, there you go. So Cortland Cortland is into everything here.
Oh God, yeah. Cortland's everywhere.
He just tested a large brand owner olive oil, and it was not olive oil.
Ooh.
That might be that Kirkland stuff. You might ought to talk to Cortland offline.
Oh yeah, do some consumer reports testing. He's got. Yeah, you better be careful, Cortland. Better be careful. Other unintended.
Yeah, tariffs and politics ruin a lot of food safety.
Oh yes, and because of that, if your prices are getting way jacked up because the government decides they want to throw a tariff on a country, bad players are going to try and work around that and come up with ways to avoid the tariff or to create a product that is now fraudulent, that's cheaper, or what have you. So your food safety radar needs to be up big time. And that's one of the things, Maggie, that we talk about here on the chat quite a bit, is with risk around food. Risk is not necessarily tied to the ingredient itself. It's tied to who you're getting the ingredient from. So sugar from a well-known supplier that you've been working with for 20 years is very different from that broker who's given you a screaming deal on some sugar that he promises is really good stuff, right? You need to treat those differently, and most companies don't. They're like, sugar's low risk. I can buy sugar from anywhere. Really? What if it's not sugar? What if it's got a bunch of sand in it or whatever? Oh, you never know.
Your cakes aren't as sweet. There you go.
There you go. A little gritty. Another thing that we're seeing in the news quite a bit as well, Maggie, is the SNAP programs and food programs, and playing with those and saying what people can eat and not eat, and just fraud. The fraud we're starting to see in this. So there's entire companies now that are out there, evidently, I'm learning about this too, that they will take their food stamps or their cards that have the money on it now, and then they will resell that through fake grocery stores who then buy them for a discount on that and then take that money. It's just like, what? I mean, it's crazy what's going on in these spaces. So programs that are meant to help people are actually just fronts for fraud.
And that's sad. And in Tennessee right now, in the state is, they're wanting to disallow soft drinks. Here in the South, everything's a Coke, no matter if it's a Sprite or a Dr. Pepper, it's a Coke. So soft drinks, as well as some candy bars and such. And it could be some fruit juices because it's based on the sugar content. And so that's a big front of the news headlines in Tennessee right now. Not necessarily the fraud, but what are we allowing these people to eat? Which goes back to, yes, the fraud. How are they getting around it to buy what they want to buy?
Right. So everybody's probably saying, okay, well, Bryan, what's the food safety connection here? Here's the food safety connection. So if your food is being caught up in this fraud, do you think that these secondary people, these criminals who are doing this, care about food safety? No. So how are they handling your product? They may be taking products or using coupon, who knows what within the system and abusing your product and then reselling it. Or they're buying product that's out of code or past shelf life and then reselling it through these programs and making people sick. And then you have a recall because of it. You need to understand these supply chains and how risk and food safety are being managed in them. And SNAP, as we're learning now, is huge. It's a huge program, billions and billions of dollars. That attracts a lot of bad players.
I'm going to have to specifically, Michelle, look on Marketplace. You're saying there's people who still sell SNAP and WIC. So I'm helping my niece look for an automobile, being the good aunt that I am. But now I'm almost afraid to put that on there, Michelle, that I'll get inundated with information. Think pharmaceuticals as well as food fraud. Good one.
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Thank you, Cortland. So we're at the 5-minute mark now, Maggie. So what would you like to leave people with for our little chat here for today going to 2026?
So my take on a lot of food is different than other people. To me, there's no bad food. Everybody says there's, this is bad, this is bad. No, there's no bad food. Maybe it's the quantity of food you eat, especially this time of the year, but there's no bad food. And it's like what I tell people is, enjoy your food, eat what you want, because I have yet to see anybody get out of this world alive. So eat the cake, have the fudge, have whatever you want, because that's what life is meant to be enjoyed. And like I said, nobody gets out of this world alive. So have fun with your food, have fun with your family, and have fun with your friends.
Good advice. I like that. And with that, so part of what we wanted to do today is give a perspective on what we need to be doing as food safety professionals. Is part of what we do is we're the group, if we're consultants, auditors, working in a food company, working in the government, or working in labs, wherever it may be, is part of the way we need to approach things is big perspective. Is we need to be thinking, we're the group in these organizations that says, I wonder what would happen if, and what are the unintended consequences of that? And helping the organization understand these things so that we can avoid the risk. Because to your point, Maggie, the consumers don't care. They just assume the food is safe no matter what.
Right.
And if something goes wrong, that trust is broken. And who gets blamed? We get blamed. We had a quality issue. We had a food safety issue. But in order to mitigate that risk in the supply chain, we need to understand all of it and all of these different touch points where that product can be abused or used in a way that it shouldn't be used and make people sick. And it's the innocent people that we're protecting the most, those babies, right? Which is why I think this whole infant formula of recall with the botulism makes everyone so angry, because these are the babies that they have to have these products. And if any product should be safe, it's infant formula. Good God. I mean,
it should be. And accountability, not only, the accountability we have as food professionals, but, Michelle said consumers need to be their own advocates of food safety. And consumers need to understand food safety, and they need to take accountability. I mean, when I was growing up, you would go to your grandma's house for Sunday dinner, which was the middle of the day meal. And, it sat on the stove the rest of the afternoon, and you had leftovers for supper.
Yeah.
And it was never refrigerated in between. So, as Maya Angelou, to paraphrase her, she said, I did what I knew to do, but now that I know better, I do better. So
there you go.
We need to do that with the accountability.
Absolutely. And part of that is...
I have no answer on how to do that.
Well, I think part of it is just getting the word out. So like I was talking about earlier with Raw Milk on LinkedIn and people like that. Be that voice that says, no, you need to think about the risk here. If you're an adult and you think you got it right and you want to avoid reality and see what happens, okay, fine. But you need to take accountability, to your point. So let me throw here in the chat. So here's your website. So you mentioned that you're going to a conference. What else are you up to, Maggie?
Yep. I'll have to tell you the website's not up to date. I've been too busy. Yes, the international processing and production and processing, I guess, expo's coming up in Atlanta, Georgia. Always the last week of January, except when the Super Bowl's in Atlanta, and then we have to go to February. Other things that are coming up is just I'm doing some animal welfare work coming up. No other really shows that are coming up. If anyone is using BRC as their means for their food safety, their GFSI audit, more than likely we will be looking at a new version coming up in the fall to go into effect of February of 2027. That's the bigger news right now. I've actually taken off and done little work between Thanksgiving and IPPE and just kind of focused on home. So now it's time with the new year to see where I'm going and what I'm going to focus on. And consulting and training will be big for me this year. And I'm always willing to go wherever and help with whatever I can. I enjoy being able to go in and roll my sleeves up and have conversations with a plant and let's brainstorm about what can we do better or what is the issue.
There you go. That's where it all happens, is in the plant. So
Exactly.
So with that, so thank you everybody for joining us. This was episode 255. We've been doing this now, Maggie, for a little over 5 years.
Wow.
And so we'll close out 2025. So hopefully we've given everybody some things to think about going into 2026 so we can hit the ground running and have a good food safety year and get those recalls down. But in the meantime, I want to thank everybody for joining us the day after Christmas on this holiday week.
It tells me they're not shoppers either.
That's right. You're not out fighting the crowds. No, thank you. So thank you, everybody. And thank you, Maggie. I enjoyed this. You've been a fantastic guest. Thank you for coming on the chat.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it myself, Bryan.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your weekend. Have a great time out there. And we will see you in 2026 next Friday, same time, 8 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Eastern. In the meantime, have a great weekend. We'll see everybody then.
See you then.